recording, so I'm going to start recording now. So in absence of value, price becomes king. What does that mean? Who wants to come off of mute and tell me, what do I mean by that?
I'll go. If you have no value you bring to the table, the only thing you've got to give is your money away.
Yeah. Yeah. And think about the last thing that you bought. Some of you, it may have been groceries. Do you have specific things that you buy at the grocery store that is absolutely, you have to buy the name brand, because that is just like, that's the only one you'll eat of whatever it was, whether that's peanut butter or like chips. I have to get these like lime coated chips. They're so delicious and they're like crack to me, right? And so we all have our thing that or multiple things that we're loyal to. Sometimes we're brand loyal to them. I ask people to think often about the cars or the computers that you buy as well. I mean, often you guys are brand centric because of what that brand represents, because of the value that you get for it. Sometimes we look for the cheapest, and oftentimes it bites us in the butt. But sometimes cheapest is okay. Cheapest is generally not okay when you're dealing with something that you're going to use a lot, or that it's a really important decision that you're making, right? And you guys are part of a really important decision that people are making to sell a home or buy a home. Have you ever seen another realtor really screw up a transaction and really hurt their client? Some of you haven't been in the business long enough because you're not nodding your head. Either you're that or you're like paying attention to Facebook or something like that right now, which is, no judgment. But if you think about it, somebody making the wrong call, giving the wrong advice, putting the wrong thing in the contract could cost somebody thousands of dollars. You owe it to every single person you meet that you consult with to have a real conversation with them, and for you to be skilled enough to convey your value proposition and earn their business. You owe it to them because they could be interviewing the person who just wants their listing. They could be interviewing the person that doesn't care whether they lose money or not. They could also be interviewing the person who just doesn't have the desire to get it right as well as you do. And that's something that you need to own every time you go into an appointment, every time you get on the phone, is it's not about you. Wendy and I have talked about this. I'm Wendy's coach, for anybody that doesn't know. She is awesome. I love seeing her on this call today. One of the things that we've talked about is if you guys ever get worried before you go into an appointment, or you get worried getting on the phone and prospecting, it's because you've made it about you. Are you going to be embarrassed? Are you going to say the wrong thing? Are you going to succeed or fail? You made it about you. Once you get out from behind yourself and you realize you're actually in a servant role, and your job is to serve and help people. And I already know, because you guys wouldn't have gotten here if you're not awesome. You wouldn't be on this call if you are not really, really great at what you do. People deserve to work with you because of your ethics, your standards, your work ethic, everything that you put into it. I know many of you work late nights. You take time out of your vacations to work with people to make sure that your clients get what they want and need, and you do things well. You owe it to the people on the other end of the fence here, right? Whether that's a seller client, a buyer client, for you to be skilled enough to earn their business. And guys, we are moving into a shifting market, and honestly, there's not a soul that knows what to expect. Not a soul. Not Gary, not any of the proverbial talking heads that you guys see. Nobody knows exactly what we're going to deal with, but we do know it's shifting. We do know it's changing. And we know that we as professionals are going to be needed now more than ever. Some of you are this is going to become a defining moment for you. It's either going to push you out of real estate, no judgment, or it's going to push you further into your career. And you're going to become better and better and better. The only thing that separates those two categories is the people who choose to sharpen their skills and actually change their behavior and get better at what they do. Skill set is going to define all of our success going forward. Besides skill set, the only other thing that really matters is your heart. I tell people, if you're in this for the money, go ahead and get out now. Because this is going to get tougher, right? And it's going to require more heart and empathy and more work. So if you're just in it for the money, go find something else to do. But if you're in this for people, they're about to need us more than ever. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is understanding. I'm moving my keyboard so I can put my notes in front of me here. I want to talk to you about how do you even define a value proposition? And I want you to write down that it must pass a few tests. The first test that it has to pass is the so what test. And then I wrote down, we actually have to also ask, what is it? And what's in it for them? And why do they care? So one of the things that I see is people might say, well, I sell more homes than so-and-so, right? I go on a listing appointment. I'm up against, Bob Smith. I don't think Bob's on this call today. Hopefully, I just made that up, right? I'm going up against Bob Smith and I sell more homes than him. So what? So what? Why does it matter? What is it that you're selling and why does it matter to them? So I would love for somebody to come off of mute and tell me, if I came into your market and I started selling real estate in your neighborhood tomorrow, why should one of your neighbors, one of your friends, list with you over me?
Okay, I'll take a stab, Brittany.
Go. I love it.
This is Jen Dawns, and I geographically farm. So I would say if you were new to the neighborhood, I am very well invested in my neighborhood and community and know it well, and have a presence here and actively work this market. Probably harder than anybody else in this market.
Awesome.
In my little pocket. So
I love it. So that is awesome. That's her value proposition. Now we have to get it to pass the so what and what's in it for them. So Jen, tell me, what is in it for them? What does that mean for a seller if they hire you over me who knows nothing about the market? What if I tell them I'm going to work just as hard?
Sure.
Why does your experience matter more?
Well, I think having familiarity with the market does bring them additional potential dollars for their listing, and being very well connected in this specific community, meaning that I could get their house in front of potentially more people than somebody new to the market.
Awesome.
So those would be a couple things I would say.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. All right. So who does not have a geographic market that wants to share what you think is important about hiring you? Who has no idea what their value proposition is? Awesome. Would one of you volunteer and come off of mute so we can do an exercise that hopefully everyone will benefit from?
I'll do it with you, Brittany.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. I think I've scared him a little bit. Awesome. So, Wendy, why should someone hire you?
Well, for me, it's all about the client. And I want the client to always believe they're my only client I'm working with, even though there may be other, clients over here that I'm helping as well. I want them to feel that they have my full attention and that we're going to have a seamless closing due to the processes and the checklists that I have. And I'm also a master negotiator. And so by the amount of homes I've sold, I've seen all kinds of scenarios, and I will hold their hand and walk them through it.
Okay. So what? Let's pass it through the so what test.
Okay, so let's take the last one. The biggest thing is if I'm helping you negotiate on your property, do you want someone that's going to be a master negotiator that's going to be able to guide you and help you get the most amount of money possible for your house? Or do you want someone that doesn't have as much experience and is not going to guide you through the process and you're going to end up with less money? So I think, is that a big deal to you to save money?
Yeah. Yeah. Is anybody still kind of new? Like you guys are producing well, but is anybody still kind of new to real estate and you just don't really know what your value proposition is because you're newer to it? What is this gentleman's name with the sign? Daryl. Can you unmute? Oh, I muted him after he unmuted.
When we
Daryl.
both do it,
Yep, we negated each other. So you waved your hand when you said you're not sure what your value proposition is, right?
Right.
Okay. So why do you think people should hire you? What are you currently telling them?
Well, I operate in a geographic area, actually two areas in Somerville County and over in Stephenville. And so usually when I'm selling to somebody or talking to somebody, it's somebody that I know. So I'm operating within my spheres. But if I want to expand that and talk to people that are outside of that sphere, that's why I raised my hand.
Yeah.
So people I know,
you're not, yeah. So with the people you're not struggling.
They already have the trust.
Gotcha.
Right.
Well, so what do you think for the people outside of your sphere, if you're calling people that you don't know, what is unique about you that they should want to work with you?
Well, in the Stephenville market, what's unique about me is that I actually have a team. So there's more than just one person involved in a transaction. We don't have a lot of teams over in Stephenville, so that would be a differentiator.
So let's pass it through the so what test. What does that mean for the client?
Well, what that means for the client is that there's more people that are involved in his account or their account. And so there's less likelihood of things falling through the cracks. So it's not so I'm not a single source of failure for them, right?
Gotcha. Anybody in here a single agent? Awesome. So if you were interviewing against him, because that's what his value proposition is, if you were interviewing against him, what would your value proposition be from your perspective?
Well, I think everybody on the call basically is going to tell you geographically they know their lay of the land really well. But what I would come back with him and say is, my background and where the job I came from, I'm solution minded because I was involved in government background, so I can help you find. I'm going to be with you start to finish. We're going to get to the end. If we run into a plat problem, I know where to go find that. Run into a septic problem, I know where to go find the septic issue. I'm a great communicator, and so throughout that, if you communicate, you negotiate. And at the same time, I'm going to put them at ease because throughout the way, we're going to run into a lot of demographics that are going to be roadblocks. And so if you communicate with the other agent, then you make it a solution at the same time, and it's a win-win for everybody.
So it sounds like what you're also trying to say there at the end is, because of my problem solving, because of my communication skills, because of my experience, you put all that together, and no matter what, we are in this together. I am on your side, and we're going to get to the home plate, or whatever you want to call it, when whatever you're selling it as, and we're going to get there together, and you're always going to have support. The finish line. I love it.
Right.
What about my individual agents who might interview up against a team? And how would you sell you being an individual agent being better than the team?
I'll go. I'm an individual agent. I would start definitely with my core values. My core values is definitely communication. I believe that communication definitely allows us to be transparent with each other, and it allows us to actually fully educate my clients so that they make the best decision for their client or for themselves. I believe networking and relationships is another core value. I believe by building relationships, it allows us to actually add that value and be able to connect my clients to other people who might be in need of what they are looking for, or vice versa. Networking as well too. I believe that 80% of the people that are making a move is county to county, and I've been able to build a great network that allows me to actually just market to other people in other counties. That allows us to market a little bit more. And and then of course for me to be able to say that yes, I am an individual agent. I have my core values instead, and it's just a matter of understanding that every team's a little different. I am working on my systems, and I believe that systems allow us to be so smooth in the transaction that you don't have to have as much stress, because regardless, there's still going to be stress. And if there's a situation that presents itself, my systems and just the way I negotiate and the way I handle the transaction will allow them to at least not have as much stress during the transaction.
I love that. So I want you guys that are single agents to write this down. You see, the advantage in working with me is you're not just a number. And you can rest assured that if you ever need anything, you have one phone number to call, and I'll be there for you. What does that portray to the client? Now, I run a team, but I'm telling you, I lose listings sometimes, and it's because somebody is really good in the listing presentation and they sell that piece, and that's what that client wanted.
A lot of people want you to hold their hand from the start to finish, and they don't like to be handed off. And you do see that a lot of times. But I think the teams we have in the Granbury office do a really good job of communicating with you when you're doing a transaction.
Yeah.
But other agencies that I've dealt with, you're exactly right. They want somebody to be there and that you're number one in front of them all the time.
And that's the key here, guys, is no matter what you're going in with as your value proposition, it's your value proposition. If I was going up against you, I'd say, man, okay, so the only concern I have about the other people that you're interviewing with is that they're all single agents. And I've been there. I've been a single agent before. And what I'm most concerned about is I really want to make sure that every prospective buyer gets handled in a timely fashion. We've done research that says they need to be responded to within 5 minutes in order for us to have a high likelihood of closing the deal. And sometimes I'm in an appointment, like a buyer appointment, a seller appointment, or a doctor's appointment, or maybe just doing something else. And one of the added values of running with a team is that we're always on for you all the time. So within any given day, there's going to be somebody there responding to potential buyers, and you're never going to lose a sale. Right? I just spun it to our value proposition. Single agents have a value prop. Teams have a value prop. Geographic farming has a value prop. Not having the geographic farm has a value proposition, right? When somebody says I'm in a geographic farm and I take a lot of listings and I sell a lot, right? That we went over earlier for Jen. If I came in and I was a brand new agent, or I don't have that geographic farm, I'm going to come in there and say, do you ever wonder if, because they have so many listings, that whenever they get a buyer, that they're just concerned about selling a listing instead of your listing? That's the unique value in working with me, is I don't have another listing in your neighborhood. And so what's going to happen is when I get a buyer call on your listing, I'm going to do everything I can to make that deal happen, not move them over to another listing. Does that make sense? All of a sudden now I've positioned myself. She did a great job of positioning herself. I've done a great job of positioning mine. Now it's up to the client to make a decision. So I want to talk to you guys about, how do we determine what a value proposition is? And I have, is it something that you do? Like, do you have a fancy process? Do you have a special open house thing that you do, or special videos or staging that you do? Is it something that you do? Is it your track record? Some of you need to just get comfortable taking in, your track record and saying, like, here's my average list price to sales price ratio, and this represents blank to you. That's why this matters. The evidence shows that I'm really good at my job, above and beyond most. Let me show you what the average is.
That's a good point, Brittany. Whenever I was, I'm on staff now, but whenever I was selling, that was pretty much my main value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it at first, but I ended up with a 98 to 100% list price to sales price, and under contract and about half of the average. And so that became my go-to value prop whenever I was on a listing appointment.
Absolutely. And same for buyer appointments too, because if you go and track your buyers and what you're getting them as far as deals go, you can position that as well. On average, I've gotten blank amount in closing costs for all of my buyers, or on average, I'm getting my buyers this list price to sales price ratio, which means we're beating out the market by blank, right? Or is it a specialty? I coach a gentleman who was a former PGA golf player, and golf communities is his niche. It's his passion. He loves it. He loves the people. He loves golf. He loves real estate. He throws all of that in. I don't have that. Some of you might. You might have a passion. You might have a niche, a specialty. Back in the day when I started, they said, you need to get a niche. You need to get a niche. Well, the only niche nobody was covering was short sales. So I became a short sale expert. I didn't really want to. I had to. Is there a niche in your market that's not being served right now that nobody else is specializing in that maybe you could be?
Brittany, I think that's all real good. I guess where I'm at in terms of the value proposition and what I wanted to listen to today is that I think we've all been fairly good at explaining what our value proposition is to our clients. But now we're faced with a new normal, and there are things like videos that we're doing. We're doing a lot of video open houses, the virtual open houses, those type of things. So how do we talk about our new value proposition? Because that's really the differentiator in our market, is that no one has ever done videos, yet we're faced with this new thing that we've been talking about, for the last couple of years, and now it's been inflicted on us, and now that's sort of become the standard by which you operate. If you don't have it, it's a big negative, right?
Yeah.
Because what we've done over the last 8-12 weeks is educate our sellers and our buyers that there's a new way of doing business, and I don't think it's going to change back to the old normal. I think there's a new normal here, and I think what we found, in talking to our teams and so forth, is that everybody's loving this new normal in terms of doing virtual presentations to get the listing, doing the virtual open houses. The open house video is out there 24/7, and it's so the house is always open. So I guess those were sort of the things that I was trying to listen for today in terms of putting together a new value proposition for our organization.
I would put that in the category of what I was just discussing, which is it something you do? Are you doing something different than everyone else? And is that being put into your listing or buyer presentations? And I would agree, if I went up on a listing presentation right now, I would say, just curious, how many other realtors are you interviewing? And have they walked you through any of the virtual changes that they've made to accommodate people during this time? And then they'd say yes or no or whatever. And I would go into mine and I'd say, you know, we went virtual very quick. We actually went virtual before the governor ever even asked us to. We started to change, and here's a list of things that we changed, and I would walk them through those. And then, as with all change, we discovered that there were some hiccups along the way. Do you remember Mr. Best, you know, when I'm talking to you in a listing presentation, do you remember when people used to put flyers out in front of houses?
Yes.
Yeah. And who picked up the flyers?
Neighbors usually.
Neighbors. So we were spending all this money on these flyers, and the neighbors were taking them, and we were constantly getting a phone call to say, fill these up, right? Well, that lacked one of the number one tenets of sales that I know about, because I'm in sales and that's what I do for a living for you, right? Is we have to have a way to follow up with prospective buyers. Inherently, when we went virtual, one of the things our team noticed instantly is we no longer had that face-to-face connection and that contact information. You go Facebook Live, and we immediately realized that we couldn't always get a hold of all those people who attended the Facebook Live. So another thing that our team has done is strategically put together a few different resources to make sure people are registering for your open house, so that we have a chance to actually follow up with prospective buyers, handle their objections, and ultimately get them to buy your house. And so you see, virtual isn't just virtual, Mr. Best. Virtual done exceptionally well, like we do here at Brittany Purcell and Associates, is the type of virtual that you want in helping you get your home sold.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And I would put that in the category of, is it something you do? And that transitions me into the other phase of this conversation that I wanted to talk to you about, is delivery. Delivery in the listing presentation. Guys, we are people. We love to talk. When there's empty space in the conversation, we keep making noise. We got to stop. You will talk yourself out of a listing. You'll talk yourself out of a commission. You'll talk yourself out of all kinds of things. You have got to write down your listing presentation and study it and do your best to memorize it. You don't want to sound like a robot, but you do want to know what you're going in saying, and you want to know what your responses are to certain objections. And the thing that I am constantly teaching people as they're coming into this, and this is, just write this down. You've probably heard it before. Telling is not selling. I just role played a script with Daryl as if he was the seller. How many questions did I ask him? I started out with, do you remember when people used to put flyers out in front of listings? And who took those flyers? I hadn't even started telling him why I was asking him those questions yet. I'm pulling him into the conversation so that when I set him up, I can spike it. Right? Anybody that understands volleyball? Right? Telling is not selling. We don't walk into the listing appointment and go, let me just vomit all of this onto you, and I'm going to just keep talking until you say I'm signing the papers. Selling is asking great questions and leading them to coming to the same conclusion that you came to as well. This takes practice. This takes you guys sitting down in a quiet area when you don't have a listing appointment tomorrow that you're freaking out about, and sitting down and saying, okay, ultimately at the end of a conversation, I want people to understand that I'm the best because blank, blank, and blank. What questions should I be asking them? And then what should I be saying at the tail end of those questions? If I'm an individual agent, I'm going to be listening very carefully when I'm asking questions to somebody, and listening and finding out, is communication really important to this person? Is speed to action really important to this person? Is are results really important to this person? Because I'm going to take whatever my value proposition is, and I'm going to tie it in with whatever they said. Because
Say that
Daryl,
again, please.
I'm going to listen to whatever they said is important to them, and I'm going to tie my value proposition into what they said. Let me give you an example. Somebody says to you in a listing presentation or on the call where you're setting the appointment, they say, just communication. I just wish so-and-so had communicated more. I'm looking for an agent who's going to communicate, blah, 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 blah. Well, Daryl, you have a team. You know what's really great is I have this amazing team that takes off all of the other work off of my plate, like the data entry, the contract submission, the email follow-up, all of that other stuff, so that I can be fully present with you whenever you need me. And not only do you have me, but I'll give you their numbers as well, so that just in case I'm like in a doctor's appointment or something, and I'm out of the office, that you always have somebody that's available for you to answer any questions, but you can always come to me first. I'll always be there to communicate with you. Versus the same objection that I gave earlier, or the same value proposition I gave earlier on an individual agent, same thing, but just from a different lens, right? I'm an individual agent and I'm your one single sole point of contact. I'm here for you through this entire process. You will always get great communication from me. How would you prefer to be communicated with, right? Text, email, voice, what, smoke signals, what would you like? So you're going to tie anything that you have back in with what they want. That's where you guys have to start getting more skilled. Is you're actually really, some of you, I'm not saying all of you, but some of you are really good at talking and persuading. You have very powerful presence when you're in front of people, and you're used to getting your way because you just have a really dominant personality. If you want to make it in this business and thrive in a shifting market, you have to get really great at listening, which means you have to get comfortable asking more questions. People will tell you how to sell to them if you just ask enough questions and you listen.
We have a lot of agents cutting their commission with other companies.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about what's the best way to talk to potential listings about that.
Yeah. So last listing appointment you went on, what did they say to you near the end?
So-and-so will do it for 2% or 1.5%. Are you willing to do that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. Just curious. If they're willing to give up their own income that quickly, what do you think they're going to do with yours?
Good.
Keep going, Brittany. That's not enough. That's not going to get you there here.
Mm-hmm. Well, what would they say next?
I don't really know.
One of the value propositions we talked about earlier is understanding your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wouldn't get me there, and if I got to a client and they said, well, listen, I'm just going to hire the person that's going to do it for the cheapest. Okay. What do you do for a living?
All y'all do is put things on them and stick a sign in the yard. I mean, it's that same mindset, right? And so, okay, so you're going to do better pictures. Okay. It comes down to scripts, and it just depends on which one they're going to pull, but it's going to take 4 or 5 more layers. There's that much.
Yeah. So, just curious, what do you do for a living?
I sell real estate.
No, give me what they say.
I'm a rancher.
You're a rancher. Are all ranchers created equal?
No, I'm the best.
Tell me why. What makes you different?
Oh, I sing to my cows and I tend to them every day.
I
take
bet
care of them.
I bet that makes the meat taste a lot sweeter.
It does. I tend to think so.
Guys, you got a mirror and match. Y'all are laughing. We got these people in my market too.
These people.
You know, Debbie, not all ranchers are like you, are they?
No, they're not.
Not all of them put all the energy and effort into it like you do they?
They do not.
And their product sucks.
Probably so.
Yeah. And they probably charge a lot less for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You see, the way you work your ranch is the same way that I work my real estate business. And you and I both know that in absence of value, price becomes king. Those people don't have anything else to compete with, so they're competing at price. The difference is they're actually not netting you more. Can I show you what I mean by that? And then I would show the average sales price, and I'd say, listen, if somebody's willing to negotiate their commission just to get you, they're probably under the average, but we'll be generous today and we'll let them be at the average. And the average list price to sales price is blank. My average list price to sales price is blank. I'm already netting you blank % more just by hiring me. Because just like you said, not all ranchers and not all realtors are created equal. If they were created equal, they would have already told you by standing firm on their value, because they would know their value, just like you do.
All right, Brittany, walk me through that without, let's say that they're telling you they can get you a higher sales price than what you know that they. So I'm sitting there, I'm sitting at a listing, they're cutting their commission, and they've told you they can get you more money.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. Did they bring you an offer?
I mean,
that's the beginning of the script, guys.
Yeah.
Did they bring you an offer? What do you think they're going to say?
I'm going to let them see. I guess we'll see, let me try it. I'll try it.
Okay, so they didn't bring you an offer.
Correct.
But they told you that they could list it higher.
Yes.
Okay. Does list price equal sales price though?
No.
No. Did they give you any different comps than what we looked at together?
Yes.
They found different houses in this market that sold for more?
I mean, they compared it to other houses. Yeah.
I would want to see what those houses were.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. That's just my honest answer.
Because we've got this, and this. They say we can get more than the guy down the street.
So what is your policy? Me just asking you, what is your take on taking a listing like that?
What's my take?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. That's what I'm giving you right now, Brittany. That's what's happening in this market. This is no joke. That's part of why we're on this call.
If I was in that listing appointment though, I'm doing whatever. I have a no listings left behind policy.
Yeah.
So I would ask, is there anything other than the list price that would hold you back from hiring me today? And if they say commission, we're going to handle commission. Anything other than that, now that we've handled that, that's the way that I just did a few minutes ago, then is there anything else holding you back? Well, the list price, they said that they could get more. No, they said they could list for more. I'm willing to list for more as long as you and I come to an agreement on how and when we'll do price reductions if it's necessary. I'll take the listing.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take the listing at 400 and it needs to be at 350. I'm not going to take it and then never have the conversation. We're going to go ahead and have the conversation now. How about every 14 days? How about every 21 days? And are you comfortable with it enough that we go ahead and put it in the listing agreement?
Yeah.
I would take the listing.
So I think all that's great. I think that's what brings us back to, okay, so for your team, it comes down to, we're in that space right now of we got to be really careful on reinvention here and not doing the same old, right? And so, and part of that is just saying it differently. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes down to it, when you have the kind of market share that we have, especially in the community that we're a lot of us are selling in, and this is part of what we're competing with, talk to me or share with us what's a few tools in your toolbox that you use on YKW. So if I'm looking for a value proposition, something that, let's say I've talked through, my track record. I've talked through what I'm going to do differently. I've overcome objections in terms of commission and price. How when you've got to pull out some weapons on YKW, what's your go-to? What's your top 2 go-tos?
Honestly, it's that we have the number one, it's going to have to pass the so what test. So pay attention. It's that we have over 190,000 agents nationally and internationally. So what? The reason that matters to you guys, because it may seem like an arbitrary number, is because the more agents we have, the more buying power we have. And that means that the technology that I get to use to help market your listing supersedes every other company out there on the market. And I get to do it at a fraction of the cost, which makes it so easy to say yes to. And those of you who are really careful listeners, I have been vetted a ton of embedded commands in everything I say. Say yes, hire me, choose me, things like that, trust me, have been embedded in everything that I've said. Are you guys being selective about practicing your scripts so that you understand what you're saying and how you're saying it? Because otherwise, it'll sound just like like somebody walks in the door and asks you a question and you're surprised that they asked the question. You shouldn't be surprised. The objections, even if they're tough, they're going to keep coming up. So pick your objection handler, pick a few of them and stick to them. And I would disagree just a teensy bit that things have shifted. I think things have shifted. And I think what we say may change, but the foundation is always there. NLP for sales is always there. Language of sales is still a class, and it's more important now than ever. Sharpening your axe with figuring out how to say what you need to say is incredibly important. What you need to convey, it's always going to be the same. I really don't think it's changed all that much. It's just that instead of talking about open houses, now we're talking about how we've gone virtual. Instead of talking about, we don't have to defend KW that much anymore. Now we just get to sell why we're the best and why it matters to them. Things have shifted and things have changed, and people might start cutting their commission. They were doing that a few years ago. Honestly, they were just doing that. I mean, you were just having, instant offers and things like that. It really hasn't changed all that much. It's that it got harder because many of you were working your database and it wasn't as challenging. Now your database is looking at other options, or you're having to add a lead generation lever and you're having to sharpen your skill set in order to go get that business. That's what's changed. People are still buying and selling real estate. They deserve to work with you. And the only way that they're going to is by you improving your skill set.
What's your second go-to for KW?
That's it. I don't really have to defend KW a lot when you have the market share.
I'm not looking to defend. I'm looking for articulating a value that we have that they don't. So it's teaching these guys how to go and take that. So whether it be how you're presenting Keller Mortgage or, and it's not about defending. Mm-hmm. It's about what do I got you don't.
Oh, and yeah. We definitely use Keller Mortgage as a piece of
what I'm saying? Like, Hood County, we're at 16% market share. Number 2 is at 7. You see what I'm saying? Like, what do I got you don't? And I think that to me, when we talk about how to reinvent ourselves, it isn't that it changed. It's that we've got to get more skilled in showing off what we do individually or as a team, locally. So like my team does, I'm going to hand it to you. I'm a track record kind of person. And then second to that, in my little script box is, hands down why it's putting the roadblocks out there of here's what I got that they don't, and you're going to miss out. Does that make sense?
And I think, that brings up a really good topic that I didn't think of as far as value proposition goes. And some people have said, okay, the biggest rebuttal I get from using Keller Mortgage, Keller, the insurance company, I'm sorry, and the Keller offers covered, thank you. Using all of them is saying, well, I don't want to mess up a relationship that I have right now. Like I already have a lender, I already have a this, I already have a that. And I've also heard the rebuttal from real estate agents. Why would I want to bring it up if it's not a problem already, right? If they're like Keller Offers. Is Keller Offers available in your area? Yeah. So they said, like, why would I want to bring that up if they're not considering it already? I hate to break it to you. They're already considering it. They're just not telling you. They're not talking to you about it. And so I'm a full believer that each one of those tenants, if you're going to have your value proposition, have it and have it ready to go in your listing presentation where you go over all of it, because you do want to be seen as the ultimate resource for them in real estate, not just as an individual agent, not just as a team or Keller Williams. I have it all. You want an offer right now and you don't want to have to clean or repair your house? We've got a solution for that. You want to get your costs down? You want to buy the next house? You know, using Keller Offers, Keller Mortgage. I love Keller Mortgage for both the listing side and the buy side. First of all, if I'm talking to you and you haven't heard of Keller Mortgage, I can save you money when you buy. So that would be great if you're a for sale by owner or it expired. But also when you list with us, the other thing that does is when we use Keller Mortgage as a stepping stone for you, it allows you to offer a preferred lender, so to speak, kind of like the builders do, and offer an added value for somebody buying your house and working through a trusted lender. It also gives you negotiating room. Whenever you get an offer, you can say, I'm not going to pay closing costs, and I can give you a lender who will pay them for you and it'll put more money in your pocket, right? So there's a lot of different ways to use these tools at your disposal in that listing presentation. And my philosophy is, and actually Wendy and I talked about this earlier today, is the first part of a listing presentation is building rapport. The second part of that listing presentation, if they're not already convinced about using you, because if they are convinced, stop talking and sign the paperwork. Okay. Like, stop talking, right? But if they're not yet, and you're looking to earn their business, you should wow them with every bit of value proposition that you have to offer. Here's who I am. Here's who we are. Here's what we have to offer. Here's what we do. Here's our specialty. Here's our track record, until they're almost just glazed over in their eyes. They just can't take it anymore. And it should be so much value that when they finally get to the end of the conversation and they start talking about commission, you go, really? With all that value? Did the other agent that is promising you the split or the reduced commission, are they offering you everything that we offered before? Because I'll tell you, and then go back into that conversation of who does things really well and why it costs more. It's because we're going to put more money in your pocket. If they're negotiating just like that, they're not skimping on what they're paying themselves, guys. They're skimping on what they're paying to market your home. And as you can see here, that's not something I'm willing to skimp on.
Yeah.
What else are some other value adds that you guys feel that you have that we haven't discussed today or haven't thrown in there? We just listed a builder thanks to Keller Mortgage.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think, you know, going through my notes, I've got a couple pages of notes, and it brings me back to that place of you've got to listen and ask questions to know what to speak to. I need to have 20 scripts. I need to know all of the different things I could overcome in terms of what's important to them. And when we read through, I mean, you've got what, 5 or 10 in terms of what are they going to say to you that they want from you, what's important to them. And it's just, it comes back to that place of listening, asking questions. You got to figure out which of that handful, right? I mean, there's maybe 2, let's call it at 10 at most, that's going to be important to a seller or a buyer.
Yeah.
And you've got to know for you what your, you know, if they say it's communication, or if they say it's price, or they say it's time, or they say, you know, money, net, whatever they're going to say to you, it's listening to which one of them they are. And then it's making sure you can speak to that. Asking questions and meet them where they are. I would say that's a huge skill of the market that we're shifting into. And then it's just being able to articulate it in a way such that it's concise. Over talking, over speaking, over, you know, stumbling through it sounds like you're reaching. And so it reminds me value proposition comes down to listening and scripts. It's objection handlers, it's asking questions, and it's scripts. And it's knowing some things you can pull from. I love the guide them through a story, bring them somewhere, get them to picture something. That's a great reminder. We haven't had to do that in a while. We've been able to go to telling. We've been able to go to that place instead of bringing them with us and then delivering. So that's really good.
I have a cheat sheet for you.
Awesome.
You guys have been
we like cheat sheets.
Yeah, because you actually, the best part about this is you don't have to memorize every script and be prepared to go into every listing appointment with all the scripts memorized. If you will just go and pull out the bold seller pre-qualification, and if you will answer or get answers to those questions before you go, you'll know who you're walking into the room with. It takes 12 to 15 minutes to complete that call. You can add your own extra questions if you'd like to, if there's things that have popped up for you. If you want to ask, have you considered one of the instant offer programs? You can add that question in if you would like to.
And I think that no matter what sales price you are in or what market niche you're in, if you are failing to do a pre-qual, you are going to miss where the market's getting interrupted. I think that if you think this doesn't apply to you, I think that's where you're going to get hit hard, because you're going to be shocked. I think as we go through the next 6 months, that I believe very much, and that's what Gary's talking about. What's shifting and how are people are reinventing themselves and how they think and how they're living. And that is what part of our reinvention is. And if we're missing the boat on asking some things that we would have assumed didn't apply, we're going to miss the opportunity to even overcome the objection.
Yeah, you won't even isolate it. Remember, in order to overcome an objection, you have to isolate it. So that was one of the things I did earlier when I said, other than this, is there any other reason why you wouldn't hire me today? Right? And that's isolating objection. Because what they're going to do is they're going to give you all their objections. And in that seller pre-qualification, you're going to find out what their personality style is, what their motivation is, where they're going, how much they owe, what they think of their house. They're going to tell you their values somewhere in there. What are you looking for in a realtor? Are you interviewing more than one? You are literally going to be armed and ready for that listing appointment, and you're going to know exactly how to prepare. So that's what I mean by you don't have to memorize all of them. But man, if I know I'm walking in with somebody who's interviewing other people with a reduced price, I'm going to be coming in with value. I'm going to have hopefully dug in a little bit more in that pre-qual to understand what else besides just cost of commission that they're looking for. And I'm going to try to establish value. And by the way, on that pre-qualification, follow it verbatim. I've been following that thing verbatim for 12 years now, and it has really served me. What's
that process look like, Brittany? And I know you need to wrap, but what does that process look like for you? Because I think that might be one of the biggest nuggets I'm taking from here is revisiting that pre-qual as well. It's leading back that we're doing it, yet are we doing it? So what's that process look like for you? Before you even walk in the door?
Before you walk in the door, you need to have something that can either be dropped off or emailed to that client. And you're going to be talking with them a little bit about that in that pre-qualification. I still follow the bold seller pre-qualification that I got back in like 2007 or something like that. It's the same copy. I've added a few extra questions on there, and I just saved it in my Dropbox so it's easy to access. When I was selling day in and day out, I had that piece of paper out. I had blank versions of it because I was actually going to handwrite in every answer that they asked me. If I was on the road, I would just pull it up on Dropbox and write down the answers on a piece of paper. I realized that when I followed that script and just asked the stinking questions and got over myself about it, that I walked into my presentations a lot more prepared. I also, when I followed those questions, I also immediately set myself apart from every other realtor, because every other realtor goes, okay, yeah, what day do you want me to come over? Done, right? And then they've set the appointment. Whereas you go, great, I've got you down for Thursday. Do you have a few minutes now where I can ask you a couple of questions so that I'm prepared to save you time when I come out on Thursday? By the way, that's the script. I've read it so many times, it's just ingrained in me at this point. but I didn't always memorize it. Sometimes I just had it in front of me. It's a cheat sheet. Nobody knew because you were over the phone, right? And so then you just go through and ask the questions, and you've already set yourself apart as somebody who's going to be more prepared and more professional when you come over, because everybody else just went, yeah, what time do you want me to come? And you got down to business. You got the nitty gritty. You know exactly what they're walking into. You got details on the house, what they think of it, what needs to be done to it, blah, 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 blah. All of the things. And then at the end of that call, you're telling them, I'm going to be sending you over some information. We've gotten digital these days. We do email some stuff, and it's got like some video links and things like that. But I say, we're going to be emailing you over some information. Will you take a minute to watch the 2 videos that are in the body of the email before I come over on Thursday? And they say yes. And we go, great, awesome. I'm going to send that out now. Let me just confirm your email. Great. Is there anything else you need from me before I see you on Thursday at 12 o'clock? Nope, that'll be good. All right. Let me know if anything comes up. You have my cell phone number. After that, I never confirm. I just go to the appointment. I think confirmation allows people to back out of appointments. So I don't confirm. I just show up. And that's why I try to get that pre-qual on that first phone call. And then we go to the appointment. And at this point, you are very, very well armed. The other thing that I would just give you guys a tip on is whatever objections they give you on that pre-qualification conversation, you are not trying to list the house over the phone. Do not handle their objections over the phone. Don't do it. They're going to say, what's your commission? And you're going to be tempted to be like, blah, it's blah. You go, we can talk about that when we get there. I don't exactly have a set price, but we can talk about something that would be a win-win. Any other questions before I arrive? Are you willing to negotiate on your commission? We can talk about that when I get there. What other questions do you have? Right, you keep them going. What were you going to say?
Well, so we have a new normal now, which is, we're doing listing presentations virtually. So how does that change?
Same thing. We can talk about that when we get on our conference call together.
So Brittany, you're currently selling?
No, I've run a team in North Georgia. So
would you be so kind to share with us your pre-listing email that you sent?
Yes. You mean to just email it to you in a little bit?
That'd be great. If you
Yep.
emailed it to me, I think sometimes that's the hard part, and taking a step forward is just what's that look like instead of just the same old pre-listing packet. And all of the, and I know you need to wrap, all of this reminds me of when I do this and you experience when you take a journey through my experience and what it's like to do business with me, oftentimes by the time I do the pre-qual, the pre-presentation through the email, I'm on time. When we sit and talk, oftentimes they're even going to ask me about commission. It reminds me, if I'm getting the commission objection, it's not just about scripts. It's about how did I show them who I am before I even walked in the door.
That reminds me too, if you've ever trained new agents, when they say, they asked me how long I've been in the business, what am I supposed to say? They only asked you because you were putting it off. Like, I haven't been asked that. You were putting off an energy that said, I'm not confident, and their mirror neurons picked up on that. So if they're asking about commission, it's because they haven't found the value yet. If you can wait until the end, you can keep deferring that conversation to the end, and you get a chance to give them all that value and portray it with confidence. I mean, you can hear that in my voice. It's like, I'm not shy about it. I'm going to get my full commission. And if I'm about to walk away and I'm not going to get the listing, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to take the freaking listing. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get the listing, but I'm going to make them pay for it some way. I'm going to say, listen, all right, let's be honest here. I'll do it for 5%, but there's going to be a caveat. Like, you're going to have to do some work. I need blank number of referrals from you before you close, right? I'm going to do something, and you have to promise that you're going to take this secret to your deathbed. You're not going to tell anybody that I gave you this discount. I'm probably going to do it, but I'm going to have at least closed for the full commission 6 or 7 times before I finally cave. And I'm going to tell them, listen, this is how you would want me negotiating for you, right? You wouldn't want me to cave on your money that way. You show them who you are every step of the way, and then you remind them that's what you're showing them. I might be frustrating you right now, because I'm sticking to my guns on this, but I really want to do business with you. And after all, that's what you want, right? A bulldog who's going to go after your money and protect your money the same way I protect mine. That is what you want, isn't it? Sometimes, I'll be honest with you guys, sometimes we cave. Sometimes we take a discounted commission. But if we ever do, it's because we gave it our valiant effort. We closed for it 6 to 7 times, and we knew we were going to lose the listing if we didn't do something. And then we asked them to meet us halfway somehow. Would you be willing to send me 2 referrals before closing to make up for it? I'm going to hold you to it. You can't actually legally hold them to it, but you can look them in the eyes and make them shake your hand. So, all right.
Awesome.
I hope you guys got value out of today. I'm hungry now. It's my lunch break, so I'm going to go grab something to eat. I'm so appreciative of you guys having me here. I hope you got some value and some nuggets and some scripts and all that fun stuff. And I'm going to email the team for the most updated email, Maquette, and then I will also email you my pre-qualification that has my little added questions in it for you.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Thank you, Brittany,
Thank
for
you.
coming here. You are fantastic. And everyone that's on the call, y'all are welcome to join us for the ALC meeting. It's going to start at noon. And each office is going to have their own meeting. And part of that meeting will be to just recap and talk through AHAs from the call. So thank you, Brittany.
Bye, guys.
All right. Take
Thanks,
care.
Brittany.
Bye, y'all.